Hello, everyone. My name is JD Calderon, and this is Indy Comics Explained. And yet again, I brought another fantastic group of independent comic book creators. So please hit likes, hit subscribe, share out the video, let everybody know we're here. And without further ado, we got Mr. Tom Hutchison.
I feel like you got did you level up your camera or something? Like your camera's looking crisp and clean today.
Really?
Yeah, it just looked like you were in like 8K now or something. Like you've done something to punch it up.
Nope, same camera.
All right. Maybe it's just you. You just look better today. That's all that is.
Out there, I didn't comb brush my hair, with the last 3 strands I got left. So Tom, please introduce yourself for the individuals that have never seen you before.
Sure. Tom Hutchison, writer, art director, publisher, all things at Big Dog Inc. We are wrapping up our 15-year anniversary this year. Nothing live as far as Big Dog Inc. Is concerned now for the rest of the year, but I am also writing for other companies. So what we'll be talking tonight is something that I'm doing for Dren Publications. And then next year's our 15-year anniversary for The Legend of Oz, The Wicked West, and we'll be focusing on that all year.
Very nice. Very nice. First guest, what's up, Rod? How you been doing?
Hi, JD. Hi, everybody. My name is Rod Espinosa. I'm an artist first and a writer, and now I'm also a part-time publisher and a game maker. So most of my work appears at drivethroughcomics.com, so you can go check them out there.
All right, cool.
I'm not. How's it going, guys?
Yo, homie. Did you figure out one of our webcamers?
Sorry. Hey, guys. How's it going?
What's up, James? Please introduce yourself.
I am James Burton. I'm the creator behind the Battle of the Nod. And I'm really nervous about how I sound. But yes, I am the creator behind the Battle of the Nod for Scatter Comics, and I am just in the middle of doing it.
All right, cool. What's up, Jeff?
What's up, everybody? Good to be back.
Good to have you. Introduce yourself real quick.
Hell yeah, my name is Jeff. I write Magic Powder, The Elf with No Name, The Public Defender, and hopefully a couple new series next year. That's about it. Yeah, I usually hire artists to do all my art, stuff like that, and that's about it. I guess I'm a publisher too, but we don't have a company name or anything. But yeah, everything comes through this stupid little apartment you see behind me. So yeah.
All right, cool. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on.
How you please introduce yourself.
All right, I'm the host of the Traversing Stars podcast. I am a publicist for indie creators for Kickstarter campaigns, and I'm the writer, owner, creator of Malik Reigning Devil, issue 3 coming next year, and The End of All Terminus, issue 3 coming out also next year.
All right, cool. All right, so just for simplicity's sake, Jeff Haas, I'm going to be calling you Jeff Haas throughout the rest of the show, because we got a Jeff right next to you. And it's just that, I don't know. It's since I don't have JD around, so we don't have 2 JDs competing. I guess I have to have 2 Jeffs. So
yeah, I was wondering what the deal with that was, but it makes sense now. Yeah.
The more Jeffs, the merrier.
Exactly. All right.
We have a J theme going on too.
Yeah, I know.
Dude, there's always a J thing.
All right.
And everyone's wondering, that's my cat, so I'll mute when I'm not talking.
No, that's fine. So, gentlemen, I got, you've all seen the show question, so I'm going to just ask you real quick. Here we go. How are you doing in indie comics? Right? We all know it's a tough business, right? So how's everybody doing individually, obviously, right? How you guys doing? Let's start with Jeff Haas.
All right. Well, I can answer the question in 2 different ways. As a publicist, I will say it's tight, but it's been successful so far. All my clients have hit their goals for the year, so I'm pretty excited by that. Personally, touch and go. I mean, they're successful, but they're not as successful as I would like. But I don't know if there's ever an endpoint where we're like, oh, that's good enough, So maybe I'm just being greedy, but it's good enough at the moment.
All right, cool. Jeff, how you doing?
I'm walking that razor thin wire. I feel like it's like, we funded everything so far this year. We're over 50% funded with about half a campaign left to go. That usually goes well for me.
Mm.
But I did just do a convention last weekend and there was like no attendees at all. It was basically just all vendors. And it was like, it was a event that got rescheduled that was supposed to happen in August. And then it got moved. And then the week it happened, it was like, there was 2 other conventions kind of competing audiences, at least that I know about, maybe even 3 or 4. So when you come to Vegas for something like that, it was just horribly planned. And then there's another thing called Atlantis Fest or something like that. And a few other comic creators I know in Vegas were going to do that. And that got canceled, probably for the same reason that this should have been canceled. And so I don't know. It's obviously it's almost holiday season for everybody, stuff like that. Money's going to be tighter than usual. Plus money is maybe tighter for other reasons. And then there's, all this tariff stuff. Maybe it's not a tariff. Maybe it is a tariff. Maybe people are getting refunds. Who knows? There's all kinds of stuff going on. So I don't know. Right now, I would say I'm doing okay, but I feel bad for anyone who's getting in now. Like, it would be a bitch because the social media alone, I just feel like is dead.
Yeah, there's definitely something going on with the algorithm hiding everybody's.
But yeah, I agree with that. It's like, one of these things where it's like you find the next thing. Because even on Blue Sky, right? Like I did pretty good on Blue Sky, I would say, for the Alpha No Name 3. Right now it's doing okay. But I posted something on the Sky deck or whatever, and it just disappeared off of my stream. And it maybe had a word it didn't want in there or something like that. But it's funny because like when that came out, they're like, we're not an algorithm. We're not censoring. There's none of that crap. And then it's like, it's just like another Twitter already. And it's like, whatever, man.
Everything evolves so the owners can make money. That's pretty much it. Pay to play.
Yeah.
Always, yeah.
Yeah. All right. James, how are you doing in this indie comics market?
Starting over. I wasn't able to keep in touch with a lot of people this year. There's been a lot of really big challenges. I had a stroke and I had to reteach myself everything. So I'm relearning to connect myself. But I'm like, the cons and stuff, they're great. And they totally helped last time. I can't do this time because now I can't be around like thousands of people and hundreds of people anymore. So right now it's kind of scary as far as that goes. But we did manage to fund a Kickstarter and we did manage to get it all fulfilled.
All right, cool. Yeah, listen, man, just, take it slow and heal. That's all we can do. Right?
Yeah, you want to stay and heal with everything, but you want to get back to your life because it's like it's like being where you can't reach things. It's hard to describe. It's very mental to try to get back into everything and reaching out to people and telling them about what's going on and getting involved in any of that stuff, all of it. And it's very hard to get back into it without worrying about whether you can or not.
All right, cool. Rod, how you doing?
Hi, JD. I'm doing okay. Get well soon to James. And I am similar to Jeff Haas, hanging in there. I mean, definitely, I've reached my peak some years back, and now I'm like on the way down. No, not really, but luckily, I have a few things going for me. Like, my house is paid up, so that's a big thing, right? So all I got to do is worry about electricity and food. So that's pretty much it. But yeah, most of my life is now online. That's why I have like drive-through comics there. A lot of my work is on drive-through comics. I'm trying to get back into Amazon, but it is kind of harder. It's a harder process. I found that it was easier to do drive-through comics. Their way of putting comics online was easier for me for some reason, because that's the bane of my existence, is applying and doing all this online stuff by myself, because when it's me, I have an internet curse where it's something always goes wrong, or if it's not the password, it's something else. Like you're not uploading the right file format, but I am. So yeah, it's things like that. But anyway, yeah, doing all right. I mean, it could be better, like Jeff Haas said, it could be better, but it is what it is. I'll probably go into more detail if you want later, and how I'm surviving in comics, but I'm still glad I am. I'm not really the best skilled, to be honest, but I've learned long ago that it's who is left standing. As long as you're like, I can still get up and stand and I can still fight, then yeah. Joe, my former publisher, he'll always say that, we're like cockroaches. If you're like a cockroach, you're hard to kill, you'll survive this business. And he was right. So yeah, that's kind of like an overview of how I'm doing.
Yeah, you definitely have to have a thick skin to do this, dude. That's
Yep. And yeah, the metaphor of being a cockroach definitely is is where we're all at.
Yeah, I can testify.
Yep. All right, cool. Tom, how you doing these days?
This was a bad year for me in kind of all ways. It was weird because last year everything was kind of surging up. Everything was going in the right direction. This was a year, it was our 15-year anniversary. I kind of had all this stuff planned to be at all these new places, these cons and all this stuff. And then, my mom ends up getting cancer in February and passing in April. And like, it all just was gone. Sorry. Like in an instant, it was all gone. And so while we kind of kept trying to like, just sort of stay in motion, we had to cancel books and push Kickstarters back, and everything, the whole schedule got shifted, and just me personally, I just couldn't really find a way to like get back in the saddle for doing anything for just months at a time. I was still out kind of trying to do the cons because we had paid money for the cons, and we kind of had to keep doing that stuff, and those were really good because that was like energy, back in. I got to see people I hadn't seen in a long time, and that's always really a lot of energy for me. It's weird because I don't really love doing cons because of all the travel and just the effort that they take to do them. But then once I'm there, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I remember this now. This is good. I'm talking to these guys and people are coming in, and, people are interested in the books. So that's good. And so the cons that we did do were good and helped build that energy. But, I just, comics takes, unfortunately, comics, especially nowadays, takes such a gigantic amount of time and energy and effort because we have to do all of this social media stuff to remain relevant in almost any capacity. So I wasn't able to do that. So I really kind of just fell out of almost everything, barring the occasional podcast with JD or JD, so it's taken me a while to kind of put the pieces back to where I'm sort of in some sort of a regular schedule. And now that we're kind of done with the year, and I'm looking at what next year is now, like really heavily. I'm finally back at the point where I was sort of last year, where I'm getting ahead on scripts and I'm getting, legitimately ready for what we're going to do in January and March and whatever. So it took me a long time to kind of get through that haze of all of that. So, for the fans that have been following us, I appreciate your patience in all the stuff that I've had to deal with this year. And I hope you guys love the books, and I can tell you now that I'm at a place where I'm really starting to get back to work well ahead, so that next year should be very smooth and very sort of quote unquote normal for what we do. But yeah, that's about it for us.
Cool. For myself, it's weird, right? Like, I asked this question because it's been a strange year, right? It's had its ups, it's had its downs, it went sideways, it went, it just went all over the place, right? And
Yeah, it's like the year of sudden emergencies, man.
right. And that's the other thing, right? There's been all kinds of stuff just going on. And for myself, it's like, I have a couple of campaigns that do great. I have a current campaign that's doing not so great. But I mean, it's fun that it's going to do what it's going to do and whatever. And I'm like, okay. But the one before that one went very well. So I'm like, what's going on? Right. And I'm like, well, the new campaign's a trade paperback. It's also older material. So I'm like, maybe that's turning people off. Who knows? Whatever. I will be launching again in another 2 or 3 weeks. So it's fine. But the other thing that's been going on with me is that, like, about, I think in 2023, I finished the Oswald Chronicles, right? I finished it. It's done on my end. I'm done with the writing or whatever. So ever since that point, I've been kind of like free floating, right? Because every day up until I finished that story or that last story, I wrote every day. Consistently, like every day, an hour, 2 hours, every day, right? On the weekends, it was like 3 or 4 hours. Now I'm writing sporadically, right? Because I don't have that anchor, right? So it's kind of weird. Like I did Magi's Grace. I did a couple other stories for Magi's Grace. That was all in the bank. But then it's like, okay, I'm like, I'm putting out the stories, but they're coming out slow. And I'm like, because the campaigns that come out slow. So it's all right, whatever. And then I just find myself without that anchor. It's very strange for me, and I'm doing a lot of proofing. I'm doing a lot of editing. I'm doing a lot of rewriting, that sort of thing. But I haven't found that thing yet that's going to get me back at that writer's table consistently. You know what I mean? Because I started a couple of novels. I was like, it's not working. So I just let it drift off. Or there's probably a couple I could get back to. But it's like, when you work on that stuff, it's like, you guys know how it is. It's the world building is immense. The time sink is immense in it. And you have to like really, really focus on it. And it's just like, I haven't been able to get myself to really focus on that. And that just tells me that that particular story is worth the time for it, So I got to find that other thing that's gonna make it there. So that's my year, So I'm still working through that, but I'll make it. Whatever it's gonna be, I'll do it.
Well, I mean, my tip would be just keep writing. Eventually you'll find something. I mean, but you gotta stay. I think what I've noticed, because I've stopped writing for a little while, is that you get so rusty, it's hard to jump back in. So if you're just writing anything down, I think you're ahead of the game at that point. You're staying consistent.
Well, it's not the rusty thing that bothers me. It's I feel like I'm not challenged, right? Like the Oswald Chronicles was a massive challenge. I said that I set before myself. I was like, it wasn't even a thing of like, can I do this? It was a thing of like, I have to do this, right? In the past, I had my friend David. He's David Montoya. He does some coloring for me, but he's also a comic book creator. And we would go to San Diego. We did like 5 or 6 years or 7 or 8 years of San Diego back to back every year, right? Back in the early, what is they refer to as the aughts. And we would challenge each other. And whoever didn't do what they were supposed to do, we had to do, I think it was 100 squats anywhere we told the other person to do them. So we could be in the middle of a restaurant, but like, bro, I want my 100 squats. And he would have to do, or they would have to do, 100 squats. And my thing was, I think one year I challenged the thing was I was supposed to get 2 novels and 1 short story compilation done that year. And I did it. One of those novels, that sucker was rough. But it was only because it just needed a firm edit. Once I did a firm edit, it worked out much better. But it was one of those things. I don't think I have that challenge, that mental challenge, and I think that's what's holding me back. I don't have that. But
so you need us to give you push-up leg challenges? Is that what's going on here? Is that what you're saying?
something like that. You know, that's what I think. But David is back. He was in Colombia for a while, so maybe I'll hook up with him again. We'll get together and see how we can embarrass one another.
Dude, there you go. Embarrassment challenge. Get on it with David and see who can, outdo the other one with silly challenges. It'll inspire you.
And here's the thing. I make it a point never to lose those. So, so I always get the work done. So.
Well, exactly. You don't want to lose your friends like that. You got to hustle and do whatever it takes to get stuff done.
I feel like usually when my bad, I didn't mean to cut you off, James, but like usually when someone's saying this whole thing about like I'm a writer looking for a challenge, they don't literally mean like someone to come up and fucking challenge them. It's like, they're looking for something new they haven't written, something like that. JD's like, nah, man, somebody needs to come at me right now, be like, if you don't do this shit, you got to jump off something. Okay, that's it. We're jackass with it, but yeah, that'd be hilarious.
Dude, that's funny. A jackass style writers camp. That already put ideas into my head. Watching somebody go through that would be just as entertaining as watching what comes out of it. Yeah. So that's what you need. Other writers that are gonna make a jackass of themselves.
Yeah, that's a whole new show you could have on YouTube and everything. Like, yeah, that's something right there. You want to promote yourself? Just eat this or blow this up on your body, or let this thing run into you, whatever, and you'll get some promotion. It'll be good.
That'd be pimp. That'd be awesome. It'd be like a comic book creators game show.
I don't know. We'll try not to get it that far, but we'll see. Tom, you got a question?
Sure. So this kind of goes into what you were kind of just talking about with challenges and stuff like that too. But I was watching the Eddie Murphy documentary on Netflix that came out, and one of the scenes where he was talking about looking back on his career and how he's played so many different parts and so many different types of movies, and he sort of imagined himself as like his career as being like he's a sailboat within his career, and he'll catch a wind and it'll take him this way, and he'll catch a drift and he'll go this way. And that's how he sort of interprets himself, as like, I just kind of go where the wind takes me, and then we'll see what that path is, and tackle it while we're there, and then we'll make the next turn and so on. So that was really interesting to me, because oftentimes in these shows we talk about things like in the idea of creation, chasing market trends and things like that, right? A lot of people are like, "Oh, I never chase trends. I never do that." I'm like, but why aren't we? Right? Why? What if we see something that's working? It doesn't mean we have to take it that way. But if we see something that's working, why are we sort of almost adamant to say, "I'm not going that way"? Are you guys open to the idea of whether it's, and this is sort of a larger question, whether it's a marketing aspect, like you see the market is doing something that works, are you interested in attempting that? Or sort of vice versa, as far as in the creation mode, if you're writing, let's say you're like writing a horror story, but suddenly like some sort of like superhero thing comes into your brain, do you let the sailboat take you into that superhero world, or do you sort of really just stand on your path and say, no, this is it, this is where I am, this is there's no deviation? What is your thought process on like when you come to a fork in the road?
All right, cool. Jeff Schiller, you're up.
I talk about this kind of a lot. So to me, I only write things that I'm going to sell to people based on the idea that they're going to want it. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's an audience for it, something like that. Like I've been writing my whole life. So, there's things I've written that I never planned on selling, stuff like that, especially now that I've been on Kickstarter and I see how it works a little bit. Like the new ideas I have coming up and stuff like that are definitely based around, Kickstarter's audience. And then I have another thing coming out I got a grant for, actually, and it's like a horror comic, and the whole reason I'm doing that is because I want to get into like horror conventions, and you see like horror movies are the only things that like actually kill it at the box office and shit like that. So it's like, yeah, to me, it's definitely about that, like fitting my ideas into, like, because I have a million ideas, so it's like which one would work at what's hot right now kind of thing. And then sometimes like with the one that I'm going to do on Kickstarter with the artist I'm doing Magic Powder with now, Nick, he wants to collab on something. He's like, hey man, we'll do something where we'll share it, we'll co-create it. You don't have to worry about paying for the art and stuff like that. And that's the first time anyone's even presented me with that thing. And I already had the idea ready, because I had another grant I applied for that I didn't get. And, so I told them the idea. So we're going to work on that. But yeah, to me, it's all about like, you're asking for people's money, right? So like, what right do you have to tell them what's what? It's a little bit of that. Don't get me wrong. Like if you have something you believe is going to be good and you want them to like read it and then you can prove your point, whatever. But you got to get them in the door still. Like how are you going to get them to, so it's all about that give and take. Like a lot of artists and, especially like as a guy who's in a punk band and stuff like that, you always meet these people who are so anti anything. Basically they are anti their favorite band's new album. You know what I mean? Like they're anti everything. So yeah, it's easy to just like talk shit and all this stuff, but then also like it reminds me of a story from Bill Burr, or I heard about Bill Burr anyway. So he was coming up when all the like tough crowd comedians like Colin Quinn, Geraldo, Keith Robinson, Patrice O'Neill, Jim Norton, all these guys were around at the Comedy Cellar, right? And Bill Burr was coming up too. And there was like this table where all the comedians would hang out and they basically just talk shit to each other, which was like what Tough Crowd was if you ever seen it on Comedy Central. But Bill Burr's like, man, you guys are toxic. Like being around you guys is like, basically like just setting yourself up to fail. He basically said, and he left hanging out with them. Like he'd still go kill it at the Cellar and stuff like that. And now he's bigger than all these guys I named, by far bigger than all these guys I named. Whether or not you're mad at him about what he's done lately or not, that's not really the point of the story. But yeah, it's just like one of those things. Like you got to see past what people are going to tell you. Like they're going to talk shit about maybe what you're into or whatever, but you're also going to see people being like, they see your success as like a sellout or you're a hack or something like that too. But who the fuck cares what they think? You know what I mean? That's rule number one in life when you become an artist is who gives a fuck what they think. So it goes against what I'm saying about the audience thing, but actually it's really who gives a fuck what other artists think, I would say, more so than what your audience thinks. Like your audience is more important than other artists is my point. But a lot of artists don't think that way. A lot of comedians don't think that way. A lot of whatever, even basketball players, whatever, like the way you play is to, do whatever you got to do to show like, even like, for instance, hockey play. I don't know. I'm not gonna take up the whole show here, but anyway, you get my point. It's yeah.
All right, cool. James, what are your thoughts?
There's a couple pieces to this, there's what you're talking about chasing the trends. Like, for example, in the chat, they're pointing out that trends are short-lived. And sometimes they align with what you're creating. If you're creating things to get people to sell them, great. If you're creating it for yourself, great. If you're creating it for others, great. I think that all of that is kind of lost on me. And what I'm saying is this. When I create something, it's because I got inspired. Something, whether it's a story or a person or whatever, it inspired me to create something better than what I've seen. It's like I'm in competition with everything, whether I've made it or whether I've seen it. And I want to create something and put everything I have into it. And comics are a slow medium. If you're any decent, you don't just knock out 13 pages in a day. As a matter of fact, my stuff takes a little bit longer than that, and I consider myself a fast artist. But when I'm trying to tell a story and get things out there, I do have to show it in pieces and get people to be excited by it, and sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't, and you have to look back on it and move on to something else. That being said, one of the most inspiring things I've had recently is I challenged myself, kind of like what you're talking about, JD, about challenging yourself. I was done writing Nod, and I had weeks where I couldn't draw, and I could write on a keyboard, but I could barely make scribbles. So after a while of training myself over and over again, I started roughing out like a insanely long story. And it was a romance. Dude, I've never done a romance before. Romances are insane. It's a challenge, but it's something I got inspired by. Maybe what I do after Nod is complete. We'll see how it goes. And hopefully it attracts attention. But chasing market trends, yeah, that's one of the problems. They're one of those societal problems, chasing market trends. Everybody chases market trends. Whether you say you don't or not, you're a freaking liar. Every artist that wants to sell their books is trying to get somebody to pay attention. Like right now, there's 1 million adult books being out on Kickstarter and whatnot. And if you're inspired by that, great. But if you're looking at marketing trends and deciding to go ahead and chase it, you're no better than the guy that creates empty stuff and pops it out on Amazon.
But
I'm not
better in
gonna
what
be
way?
satisfied.
Like, what do you mean by better? Like,
What do you mean, like, by better?
yeah, like, what do you
hollow,
like?
hollow AI garbage is a good example.
I'm
of
not saying that AI
throwing
is good or
stuff
anything.
out.
AI is absolutely dog shit, but I don't understand what you mean by better than this person. Like you're gonna get laid more, you're gonna make more money. What do you mean by
No.
better?
You're
Oh.
making something that's authentic to you, making something that's pushing your boundaries, whether it's the skill to make the pages or the skill to write the story in a way that makes more sense, or trying to convey to other creators the whole point about the genre. Every artist is on their own quest to communicate something. And the better comes into making your own better art or making better writing if you're a writer. And if you're a colorist,
But are you saying better
creative
than
with it.
yourself or better than the other
Yeah.
person? Like,
Better
you're
than
saying
yourself.
right? Okay, that's what I was trying to understand. Because it's like, to me, it was almost like, because like to me, I don't like, because like you said, all this not safe for work stuff you see on Kickstarter, obviously it sells whatever. I don't make any myself, but like I'm not mad. I'm like, I'm better than this guy or whatever. But I see what you're saying, because like as a person, I'm always trying to improve everything. So I see what you're saying. Like, oh, the next thing's got to be better. You got to make your next page better, your script better, all that kind of stuff. So I see what
There's
you're saying.
no
now.
point.
It's like,
Yeah, there has to be a point in doing it. There has to be some kind of development from you. If you're doing it just to end up making more money, you're part of the people that are pumping out insincere work all over the place. And in all honesty, it doesn't matter what field, whether we're watching movies like all the stuff that's being pumped out right now. That's one of the problems, is there's 1 million people that are worried about making money and not worried about making something beautiful. And as a result, there's 1 million hollow, empty stories. And the ones that are really good end up standing out. I am trying to make something that's good enough to be considered by someone who sees it inspirational, and because it inspires me. And that's exactly what everybody should be hunting for. I know we all got to eat, and I get that, but at the same time, you also got to eat with your soul. You got to make something that's worth doing. You got something that encourages your spirit, and it can't just be doing things for the market. Everybody that I know that I know some people where they only chase down profitability, and they end up alone. They end up hollow. They end up with all kinds of other problems that they never saw coming, because as they chase that down more and more and more, it never ends. And no one I know can stay with that forever, except for the hollow, empty kind of people that are narcissistically pushing others down.
All right. That's fair. Rod, what are your thoughts?
Well, I do agree with James in a way. There's two things that we're talking about, how we're doing, how we're surviving right now. There's two things that prop me up, but every now and then it'll be one or the other, not both. Like there was a time my own creations were propping me up. This was a few years ago. That's why I'm like, on the personal project end, my own works aren't doing too well these days. But then I supplement that with what I call mercenary work. People approach me, they want me to draw their thing, and I don't really care if it's trend chasing or whatever. I just fix my mind on how can I make this project look good, and how can I make it fun for me. That's kind of my thing right now. I always find what's fun in a project, no matter what it is. Like I don't know if the image that I shared is on right now, the cover of Ben Franklin. I mean, I used to not be a history buff, But when I got these projects about American history, I'm like, how do I make this fun for me? So I found ways. I found ways to make it fun for me, and that's how I am with a lot of the projects I work for other people. And in fact, recently my client was like, I like what you did here, even though it wasn't in the script. And I said, yeah, I try to add something special to every page so that it looks good. I want him to look good and I want him to do well, because if he does well, I do well. That's kind of my thing right now. That's why, whether it's mercenary work or my own work, that's how I balance it right now. I have like a bunch of clients that want me to work on their pages. So and there are many that remain unpublished. Actually, I'm about to ask permission if I can at least share them on Facebook or something, so that at least people know that this is what I've been working on, even though it never got published, kind of thing. So but they pay me though. These clients do pay me. That's one of the things about mercenary work. You got to go, well, pay me and I'll do it. Even though it's whatever, trend chasing, I don't really mind. I'll make it interesting for myself and I'll make it look good for you. That's my thing. So I go kind of overboard with a lot of my pages because of that. I just don't view it as something I got to do. There will be time for that. And I even have techniques for that. It'll still look good even if I'm rushing it. But yeah, it's just all these tricks that you learn. So yeah, there's a little bit of everything.
All right, cool. Jeffrey Haas, what are your thoughts?
I agree a bit with James and Rod. For the most part, I mean, I tend not to follow trends. What my projects are something I believe in, something I find is interesting, a voice that I don't think is out there yet, or at least not 100% out there yet. I mean, obviously, everything you do is kind of taken from something else on some level, but it should be yours, something that is, your voice in some way. Of course, that could be a reason why I'm not selling as much as I could be. But at the same time, on the far end too, it could be a cop out to say I'm not following a trend, thus I'm not successful. Or you're not successful because you're not good enough to be successful. There's a lot of ways to look at that. But I do believe in following what you believe to be quality work. I remember as a writer, I'm only a writer, I'm not an artist. It's hard for someone to pay you to just do the write for indie work, but someone paid me to do some writing for them. I remember doing a script and I started it and I got the money for it. And I remember sending the money back because I just didn't believe in the project. This wasn't my voice. It wasn't something worth doing. It's not something I believed in. And I decided I didn't want to be part of it anymore. There's a part where you got to decide what kind of person you want to be. Do you want to be the person who does what you believe in or doing something that gets you by? And there's nothing inherently morally wrong with just making money to survive. We all have to do it. Luckily, I have a day job that pays my bills. So I can afford to do what I want to do with my other projects. But at the end of the day, you do have to look back at your project and your art and think to yourself, was this worthwhile? Did I bring something to the table that was me, that I can be proud of? Or did I just bring something to the table to pay a bill? Which, once again, inherently understandable because we all got to pay our bills. But I do think at the end of the day, sort of like James was saying, there's a hollowness to that pursuit. In the ideal world, you could do what you believe in and be successful at the same time. It's just, unfortunately, that's hard to do. But I guess that's where I'll stand on that.
All right, cool.
Can I add to what Jeff Haas said?
Go ahead.
About the personal stuff? I love my own work too, which is why I spent 8 years of my life here on if you can bring up what I shared, Adventure Finders there. I'm concluding that series now. It's 8 years of my life. I said if that was a child, they'd be 8 years old right now. That's how long I've been working on this. And as you can see, it's on the epilogue series now. And every character gets a special epilogue, which I post online for Patreon. And that entire series can actually also be found in Drive-Thru Comics. And it's been the passion work of my life. I've had other personal projects, but as Jeff said it, sometimes life gets in the way and we have expenses. And a lot of my life, we were talking about a while ago about movies. That's why I was just silent, because I don't watch anything. Like I haven't seen a sequel since Matrix. I think I learned my lesson then. I just have a blanket ban, and at the same time, it's either I don't want to see it or I don't have the money back then. So whenever people at the at the firm, at the company at Anarch Press over in Texas, they were like every Wednesday they would go down to the comic book shop. I would not go either because I had work to do or because I didn't want to spend money. So a lot of that is financial. It is a reality. And I'm such a hardcore comic book person, though, that I don't know if I shared this with you, JD, and everybody else, but I lived in an RV for 2 years because I didn't want to pay for an apartment. I said, how do I cut that off and still keep doing comics? Right. And so I'm like, I found these RV forums online. I'm like, oh, look at that. They're living for free in a car. So like that got really crazy. And I would always advise this to people that if you're going to do that, do it while you still have money. Don't wait till you run out. That's the thing. I think that's one of the things that made a good difference for me is that I did it while I still had savings and I could get out of it if I didn't want it. But luckily, I fell in love with it. I spent 2 years living in a van, and I would just report to the studio and then back to the van at night. You know, it was honestly the thought of not having rent was just a load off my mind. And I would, if I was in that situation again and I was running out again, I'd be like, I'll go back to the van, not a problem. So I experienced that. I mean, that's how crazy I was for comics. I'm like, how do I cut out all these other expenses and still do comics? So that was, you know, so that was part of my life back then. Is I just take out a lot of the other expenses, and that includes, unfortunately, not seeing any movies or anything like that. So unless our boss would say, "Oh, I'll treat everybody to this movie," then I guess I'll go. You know, our boss was amazingly sometimes generous, even if he owned an indie company. Sometimes he would take us all out for burgers or whatever. I'll go then. Of course, it's free food, you know. So yeah. It's all about cutting the expenses. I sometimes, you know, so I'll just share that.
All right, cool. I'm of many minds on this one because I have my personal work, something like the Oswald Chronicles, but I've also done, like Rod says, you know, mercenary work. You know, I wrote La Blue Girl, which was an adult anime, you know, anime series that I turned into a comic book, right? I wrote something called Demon. All right, it was Tenchi Muyu. Wow, I'm forgetting Demon Beast Invasion. Yeah, that's it. That's the other one. But you know, so there were those two. There was Tenchi Muyu. There's Phantom Quest Corps, and eventually there would have been something called El Hazard. These are all different series. And that was my, I guess, mercenary work. And the only reason I didn't continue doing that work or that type of work is because I just don't like pitching editors, right? I don't like going to them and then presenting 4 or 5 ideas and then being like, no, I don't like this one. I don't like this one. I don't like this one. And then, you know, and then maybe they'll pick one if you're lucky. And then I was just asked screw this. And I just got a regular job. And I just continued the Oswald Chronicles and I continued with Tall Tales with Daphne. And you know, now I'm bringing back some of the older stuff like Dreamweavers and stuff. But my thing is as far as following trends, if I'm being paid by an employer to follow a trend, I'm more than happy to do it. For my own personal work, look, I've been sticking my toe firmly in the not safe for work covers, right, for the last couple of years, and with mixed results, right?
Hold on, before you keep going. Did you do that because you thought you saw a trend of value in that? Was it a trend fall? Okay.
For sure. Right. And then also I had some work that I thought would fit it. Right. Like I wasn't going to start doing it with Oswald. Right. Yeah. You understand? So I had Magi.
That's a whole different audience, I think.
That's a whole different audience. I'm not even getting into that one. So, but, you know, and then there's also there's this thing like this, you know, to be cruel, right? You have some of your kids you're willing to throw to the wolves, and then you have that one special, and you're like, "Nah, man, I'm keeping this one," right? So
yeah, definitely,
right. So we have, you know, that separation, right? So I'm like, all right, I'll try with this, and like I said, I've had decent success with it, and then it's interesting to see how other people have been doing it, and it's interesting to see how it grows, right? Because it's been growing for me, right? So I'll do 2 campaigns on each book, which I think drives some people insane, but it works. So I'll do the first campaign, and I've seen growth from issue 1 to issue 2, or I should say from issue 2 to from issue 1, and then from issue 3 to issue 2, so on and so forth, right? And then on the secondary campaigns, I've seen it's not as high, but there is a little bit more growth, right? And it allows me to cover that gap. So yeah, man, I don't know. Like I said, I'm all over the place with the answer, but it's like, yeah, I'm good with all of it. You know, I'm good with, you know, mercenary, NSFW, your own personal work for your soul, because like I said, that's what Oswald was for me. You know, and I'm also good with, you know, doing the mercenary work and the NSFW and following trends. And I'm like, you got to do what you got to do, you know, because in the end, the reason I did the NSFW work was to feed more money into Oswald.
Yeah.
And that's really what that was. I was like, all right, well, whatever funds I pull out of that is going to go into that, you know, and it's worked. You know, it's allowed me a little bit more capital to push it along a little bit further. So yeah.
JD, you are a sailboat. Well done,
bro. I don't know if I'm a sailboat. It's just, you know, you know, just a sail flapping around. Just, you know, shit.
Some of it does turn me on, though.
Yeah.
NSFW, I mean.
There you go. Listen, it's like,
I'll do this for free, so if I'm getting paid, then that's great.
Yeah, I tell everyone, it's like when it comes down to porn, I'm like, if it doesn't disgust you a little and turn you on at the same time, it's not porn.
At least you have porn standards.
You know, it has to disgust you on some level, but it also has to turn you on. If it doesn't do those two things, it's not really porn. Sorry.
Good luck. Can't argue with it.
All right. So yeah,
the requests I've gotten, but yeah.
So Tom, how do you feel about your question? I mean, what do you
got? So it is a multi-level sort of question. There's a lot of things to kind of tackle with it, but for me, I kind of feel like I've always drifted, at least in the creative sense. That's why I have superheroes and westerns and horror and fantasy and whatever the hell I feel like writing at the time is what I feel like writing, and that's what I do. So in a just sort of mental creative sense, I've always just been like, what do I feel like today? And that's kind of what I tackled. Obviously, if there are things that I have to get done, I focus there first, but it never seems to fail that as I'm writing something, it will trigger something else. And I'll be like, oh, I got to write that down because that's going to be for something else. So I've always kind of been like that. The Daphne, I think it was Daphne, she posted something in there about how she thought that we could easily make a book that we want it to be for the way that we want it, but use market trends to market it and sell it like that. Perfect examples of that are like the homage covers that are so huge, blind bag things that are so huge right now. So yeah, 100%. That's a fantastic point, is create what you want to create, but use the market to market it. That's very smart. And it's something, but for me, this is where my sales collapse, because I hate, but people have heard, I hate these blind bag things. I think it's a really short-term thing. That's an obvious money grab, the way that they're mostly being presented. So I really don't like blind bags. Homage covers, we do them very sparingly, whereas other companies are like every single time they do a book, there's 2 or 3 homage covers to something. And I'm just like, God, this is just, it gets so tired to me. Every now and then someone will do a real deep cut that I'll be like, yo, that one's great. Like somebody put some thought into it. It's not just another Amazing Spider-Man 300 thing that we've seen 1,000 times, right? I'm like, you did your homework on your product. It fits whatever it is that is. Great job. But I've often rejected the idea of like going headlong into the homage realm as well. Same with the nude covers and stuff. Like I have basically 2 books that we do that on. And one of them is a Las Vegas book, so obviously it fits the genre of it. And the other is our horror book, our vampire book, which, you know, historically, you know, naked vampires is like, we've all seen that. So I don't feel like I'm really chasing a trend in that regard so much as like feeding the genre for what it is already. But like with my critter book, my superhero book, there will never be that ever. With my Legend of Oz book, there will never be that ever. So I draw the lines, kind of like you said, like there's some that you'll throw the wolves and some you'll be like, no, these are the good ones.
I think that's a really smart approach, though, using the trends about your marketing, but making things that are authentic where your imagination takes you. And
the problem with that, though, the problem with that is when you do those types of covers, there's an expectation of what's on the inside. And I have run into a really weird phenomenon of people who have bought my covers, not even like the nude ones, but just like a little more sexy than normal, right? Just they're like, oh, I'm buying that cover. And then I get a response from when they read the book. I'm always expecting like, oh, I bought this cover, but the book inside is like really good. This is really great writing. I get this weird response of late where they're like, well, the insides don't match the cover. Like, why aren't they naked inside? Like, why aren't they kissing inside? Like, why aren't they like, why isn't the inside as NSFW as the outside? And I'm like, holy fuck. Like this is where we're at with this stuff, right? This is like every book either has to be hyper violent and everybody's punching somebody in the face, or it has to be hypersexual and everybody's kissing and making out, and I'm just like, I don't really do that kind of stuff. I'm happy to kind of create the art because I understand art, pinup art, storytelling art. Like I can really get deep into, how we want to present characters and so on, but that's not what I write. That's not my storytelling on the inside. Even like the Vegas, like it's still while it's a Las Vegas story and we get sort of those elements, it's still not like everybody's crawling up on stage and doing each other. Like that's not what I do, but that's what the response that I'm getting. They're like, well, I bought this cover and like, there's like a naked angel and like, there's no naked angels in your book. I'm like, there's a story in the book. Like,
but Tom, there's also
sorry, I wrote a story, right?
But Tom, there's also a story with a naked angel. I'm just saying.
There could be, but that's not what I'm doing. So it's been that's a new phenomenon. Like that was not what was happening early in my career through all of these years. Like I said, I've been doing this for 15 years, but lately I've run into those little moments where they're like, yeah, I don't know that I want to buy your book anymore because the insides aren't that NSFW stuff. It's like you write too much. I'm like, oh my God, like what? I don't even know what to do with that information.
Too much is my favorite thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, that's like, I'm like
too many words, Tom. Too many words.
Too many words. Too much story.
Too many words, not enough boobs.
It's like, oh my God. So it's a really weird moment that's happened in the past, like I don't know, year or so. So there's that. But anyway, back to the basic question is for me, when I heard Eddie say that, like be the sailboat, like if something takes you over here, like look at it, see if it makes sense, because there's always going to be another wind drift to take you another direction. So since I've watched that, I've been kind of like, do I lean into any of this? Because again, I'm still making the books that I make. That's not changing. But as far as the marketing side of it, do I just say I'll make a blind bag? Do I just say, yeah, we'll make a few more nude covers? Do I just say, whatever it is, or homage covers, whatever? Because I do like them if they're good. And I think we've done a few deep cuts. So there's that. But so that's where I struggle. Like I think creatively I am, sort of on the water. But when it comes to the marketing side, I really run a rigid sort of, I don't want to do that. And I don't know if I'll ever be able to break that wall down, even if there's like a payday right there. I don't know.
But a big part of this too is like we don't know if the payday even is there. So it's like if you do the thing you don't want to do and it doesn't even fucking work, then you're like, oh yeah, what did I do here?
And I'll tell you this: I threw away a payday in the early days of my Legend of Oz book, my Wizard of Oz book. A retailer wanted to do variant covers, and I said, sure, of course. So he got an artist. I won't say who it was. It was a big artist. But he got an artist, and they turned in these roughs, And it was kind of like a sexy Dorothy Gale. I'm like, yeah, whatever, that's fine. It wasn't anything crazy. And he was like, cool. And then we're going to do like a topless version of that. And I was like, absolutely not. Like, there's a 0% chance I let that happen. And he was like, what are you talking about? This is what this artist does. And I said, I know who the artist does. I'm aware of it. And we can play with the country girl thing. I'm okay with that. But there will be no topless anything for this book. And I said, let me tell you why. Because if somebody down the line were to go and like Google that book, it is invariable that will be the first book that pops up as far as a search, because it will be very popular. I have no doubt. But if that's the first search for my Google search for this new book, for a Wizard of Oz book, by the way, the reputation of the book is wrecked in an instant. No one will click on any of that stuff. They'll think that it is one of these NSFW books on the inside. And he said, do you know you're leaving money on the table? And I said, yeah, I absolutely know I'm leaving money on the table now. But from a long-term standpoint, absolutely not. In a long-term standpoint, I win, because the book will have a reputation of being valuable to the comic book world, the reader world, the Oz community, which is exactly what's happened. And so I will forego this bag of coins right now for what we have at the end of the rainbow.
All right, cool.
It's funny because that similar thing kind of happened to me, and I will name the artist because it wasn't like a bad thing or anything. And he's on my current campaign. But so me and Flops, we were working on something, and the whole reason I hired him is because he was big on Kickstarter, doing kind of like whatever they call it, like those kind of covers, like not safe for work covers. And then I hired him to do like a Pulp Fiction homage, and I was just like, put this character as the Uma Thurman character or whatever. And he sends it back to me, and she's got no dress on. And I didn't say, hey, make sure she's naked or anything like that. And you can't see any nipples or anything like that. I think you can see her ass crack. And I guess that's my most not safe for work cover ever. And it also probably is my most successful cover. I mean, not even probably. But anyway, so like, at that point, I was just like, I'm not going to even ask him to do the damn dress now or anything like that. But I was glad, like, he kept it tasteful enough to where it was like, it's a variant, worst case scenario. No one's ever going to, but like you said, where like if someone did see that first, they would probably, at least it's Pulp Fiction. So they know that's kind of what's going on anyway. It's like a crime thing, but it's definitely not like in Pulp Fiction. You also aren't going to get no full penetration or anything like that. So hopefully they understand that, you know what I mean? But yeah, if it was just like her straight up naked and stuff like that, and that's all they see, they would just, it's totally, like you said, misrepresenting what I'm doing. So yeah, I'm glad in the end, like now the current cover he has for me is a guy like putting a gun in a bag, like he has clothes on. So, it's just like, one of those things where it's like, he's still, even this cover right here, this middle cover, it's like, you could kind of make out the elf guy that's here, whatever. He's like a cowboy. It's like another Flops cover, but it wasn't like, most people think he's going to do Not Safe for Work. So I try to hire him to do the opposite, just kind of like to twist it. But like his audience is why I hire him. You know what I mean? So that market trend, I wouldn't even know who he was. But then again, his art's also dope. So it's like, it all works out. But, I feel like you got to go a little, like, give and take, like you guys are saying, a little one for them, one for me, as they say,
All right, cool. So before we have something here, the Ballad of Not. I just wanted to bring this up because James has to go. James, talk to me, man. What are we looking at?
Well, The Battle of Nod is a story that comes out in 6 parts, and I got the first one out before I got sick, but the second one, I was in progress. So what I've got coming up here is we're having a Kickstarter, and on the 21st is when it begins. And it's a story about a young girl who goes into the nightmare dreamscape to try to face her nightmares in order to get her teddy bear back, who is defending her from basically them running shot over her life. And it was inspired by all the grief and everything that I had to deal with during the cancer battle that I had in 2007.
All right, cool. So this is, you said, the second issue. You're still in progress, or are you done with the second issue? Moved on to the third. How's that working?
It's all done. We've written out all 6 of them, but I've got to do the artwork. So I'm getting them done as fast as I can. Issue 1 and 2 are completely finished, and issue 3 is in progress. So we're hitting Kickstarter with the second one and just showing off where the story is.
All right, cool. And you said it launches on the 21st?
Yeah, we're going. We're launching on the 21st and basically showing off like what Nod looks like, what the Dreamland looks like for her, because she's now inside of it. The first book is about her facing the demon and then deciding to go after them, and then the second one, it's a lot of surreal landscapes and being in there where she meets some friends that are going to help her with dealing with the nightmares.
All right. Very nice. Very nice. I like it.
Yeah.
I
One of
enjoy-
her friends is that little hamster that's on her shoulder named Gandalf.
Mhm. Cool. All right, nice. All right, listen, man. So everybody sign up. You got 36 followers so far. You got what
Yep. We've got about
24,
36
5 days.
followers.
Yeah. Got another 5
Or-
days. So sign up, follow the book, and pick it up, man. It looks nice.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Hopefully the story will be nice and dramatic for everybody as they go through it.
All right.
Right. I gotta go. So you guys have a good night.
All right, James, take it easy, man. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me, and I love contributing to the discussion. So you guys have a good night.
All right. I'll talk to you soon, James. Take care.
Adios.
All right. Next up is Mr. Espinosa. What are we looking at here?
Hello. That's mostly my site at Drive Through Comics. So those are all my books and all the available titles, which there's a lot. And very dominant is the Adventure Finder series, which is essentially, it's your essential Dungeons and Dragons. They all begin as newbies in a small town and they become high-level characters later on. It's very D&D inspired, a lot of good versus evil, of course, and I try to fill my world with all kinds of eclectic characters, some good, some evil, some in between, and another good feature about my comics is that a lot of it is sometimes they encounter kindness from strangers, so I try to put that in my work as often as I can. I love inserting like deleted scenes in a lot of my chapters, which is why in my Patreon that features Adventure Finders, occasionally I would tell my patrons, hey, in issue this and episode that or chapter this, I inserted an additional scene with this character. And so when I do that, I always add 2 pages so that the pagination doesn't go whacked out, doesn't throw off the double page spreads, so yeah, it's an ongoing work. And recently I added 4 new pages to the very first chapter to show a little bit more about what the other characters are facing, and I wanted to put a little danger in there. So as you can see, also Courageous Princess up there, that used to be my top selling book, and it currently actually does not have a publisher. So yeah, if anyone's interested, there you go. Yeah,
You were originally having it. Dark Horse had it for a while, right?
yes, it did. Yeah, for a long time. That used to be like my bread and butter, which is why sometimes I tell a lot of people, you know what, guys, just pursue what you want, because it happened with me for a while. I was receiving royalty checks and I was living high on the hog, but yeah, sometimes that comes to the end,
Right.
But thankfully I didn't waste my money. That's why I have savings and all that. And in 2023, JD, you mentioned that you were being unproductive. I was very unproductive in 2023. I had a severe attack of carpal tunnel. I could not draw or move this hand for 6 months.
Ouch.
It really hurt just lifting a pen like this. You can't do it. And the milestones would be like, oh, I can finally eat with a fork without any pain. Oh, I can twist a doorknob. Oh, I can open the refrigerator door without any pain. That went on for 6 months, and for a moment I thought, this is how life is when you can't draw anymore.
Right.
And all these existential questions begin to come out in my mind. But like I said, luckily, their savings came and saved me there. So yeah, it's just all about saving money in this in the business,
So
It's a good
Rod,
thing I was taking care of myself.
So, Rod, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
So, you know, a lot of adventure finders. Like, how many individual issues? 'Cause I'm seeing like 54, 56. I don't know. Like, how
Yeah,
many?
there's a lot, like 50 plus books,
50 plus.
and individual comic books at this point.
Mhm.
And some of them are way more than 24 pages. Some are 32, some are 40. So yeah,
What
it's
year did
easily
you start that
thousands of
series?
pages. Was that?
What year did you start that series?
Oh, that was 2016.
That's badass. Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, it was eight. It's 8 years of my life, and I'm just concluding it now. So I'm having this, remember the Lord of the Rings when the ending, there were several many endings at the end. That I'm having that right now. I'm having the Return of the King moment where every character has their ending, and I have to draw it out, and But it's pretty cool though. I'm on my last book. That's why I'm like, yeah. But at the same time, like I said, got other clients calling me and telling me to work on their books. So I said, well, of course, you have to say yes. Say yes a lot. That's my advice to people, And on my Facebook, I post a lot about my food, and I sometimes say that if I ever run out of clients, maybe I can cook, but that never happened. So a lot of it is you have to know your worth and you have to know your skill sets. And yeah, I say yes to a lot of things, as long as they're legal, of course. You don't want to you don't want to do anything bad or anything like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, in that long list, as you can see, that's a lot of books. There's like 3 of them that are NSFW.
Mhm.
And to those interested in that, I actually have a different Patreon and a site for that. It's called Patreon. You know who makes hot art. That's me. That's when I let go and a lot of inhibitions, and there's no false advertising there. It's the cover says what it is. There's no like, well, how come they're naked here but they're not in the book? No, they are. And it escalates. So yeah.
Right. All right. Cool.
So yeah, that's how it is. It's a spread of a lot of things. So yeah. That's how we stay alive in the indie world.
I just pulled that one because I saw you shared that one. So.
Oh yes, yeah. I shared Courage Princess, but also, like I said, it currently doesn't have a home. So yeah. So my the royalty check stopped right now. But again, I should be worried, but I'm not. Like that. That's the thing about this business, is that I've kind of stopped worrying for a bit, but I really should. All the time trying to get a new publisher for it, because it used to be my bestseller, and I'm pretty sure it'll be my bestseller again. The thing is, Dark Horse was purchased by Penguin Random House, right? You remember that?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so again, when they do these mergers, part of it is they remove people get fired, and my book was just one of the books that they thought didn't earn like Stephen King numbers or whatever benchmark they have, so, but it does make money for a medium-sized company. I mean, it made money for Dark Horse, but when Dark Horse got sold, I guess mine was one of the books that got cut. So I'm trying to market it to people currently, but I'm not doing a good job, obviously. Like I said, I really should be more on the ball on this, and that's been my greatest weakness. But at the same time, I just go with it. Like, I have a client right now that I'm taking care of, so like that takes, second. Just like a board game. I made a board game, but I'm not really promoting it. But it's made, and it's also a drive. It's also a drive-through, and it's also at like what's it, Board Game Maker, BoardGameGeek.com or something like that. It's there. It's on sale, but I'm barely promoting it because I'm busy with other things. Also busy with life. Also because I'm taking care of my folks. That's why I moved here to Asia. It's one of the things, though, I always recommend to my fellow Americans. Like, if you don't want the turbulence of what's going on in the States, if you make money online, I mean, that's how I make my living here. And I'm not even making that lot of money. That I guess that's why losing Courageous Princess was I really should be worried, but I'm not, because I'm like I make just enough to fund my life here. And honestly, if you see my website, I'm always posting food. I'm always going out. I'm going to beaches. I mean, it's a fun life if you're an indie artist here in the Philippines, because as long as we make dollars and the conversion rate is good, you're all right. So
Yeah, listen, you just got to hold on, brother. That's all.
yeah.
Right. Talking about hold it on. I mean, there's something we all need a little bit more in our lives, and that's some magic powder.
Yeah.
I like that segue. That was smooth.
Do you want to play this video?
Not really. I could just talk. It's about the same thing
okay.
I would be doing. Yeah, it's just me talking. So yeah.
Gotcha.
Me talking 2 weeks ago is not as updated, what's up? Yeah, I don't think the flops cover was even ready at the time. So anyway, Magic Powder, we're funding 1 through 7. The 7th issue, brand new. It's the first issue of the new arc. Issue 1 you can download for free from the campaign page if you haven't checked it out. This is the Max Pinelli cover. This is our flops cover. So you have 2 options. Then there's also a sketch cover variant that you can grab, and some of the rewards. It's also an add-on. Here's the first page of the new issue, and then we have the first 7 pages up there for you guys to check out. We'll unlock a new page when we get to either 175 backers or 75% funded, whichever comes first. And then we'll go from there. So these are some new characters, like the blue guy. He's a goblin named Breaker. He used to start off every issue of the first arc. Now it's a second arc, so a new character is starting it off. So he'll be in it still, obviously. He's just not going to start off every issue. The Dwarf Father, all that kind of stuff. It's picking up from where it left off in the first 6 issues. So if you haven't read those, probably pick those up. You know what I mean? They're all available, physical, digital forms. So yeah, I would say, if you like long form storytelling, I'm going to try and keep this going as long as I can. Hopefully I get up in the 50s like Rod. That would be amazing. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
I'll make a variant cover for you.
Hey, that would be awesome, man. Yeah, I'd love that.
Yeah.
And it's like,
luckily anyone on this stream, actually.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, man, a great offer, because your art is great too. So yeah, man, so you did all those covers we've seen, right? Those amazing artwork. So yeah. So anyway, right here, this guy, you see the elf in the jumpsuit or tracksuit. He's a backer, that got a cameo last issue, so he's drawn into this issue, and he doesn't last very long, as you can see in the preview pages, but he got to show up and make a little moment, and that's pretty much it. This is
memorable NPCs.
We're doing back cover cameos this time, so I can write the story ahead of time and not worry about fitting people in. So if you want to be on the back cover, which we did on Public Defender #1, and we also did on the Elf with No Name #3, you can be any kind of fantasy character, and you'll be on the back cover. So anyone listening that wants that, this is another cameo right here, that elf right there that they go in the house and point the gun at her face. That's a backer that was also, back to cameo. So it's all good. It's fun, getting friends in there. We don't know if she dies or not. Or they die until you see page 8. So, let's get some backers in here, and then we'll release the next page and you see what happens. So that page right there, the page 7, that's the most frames I think I've ever put on a page. I was like, I'm going to get this in. Yeah. And so we have a new artist this time. So the first 6 issues we had Danielle Aquilani. Thank you. So Danielle Aquilani, he was killing it. He's from Italy. He did the first 6 issues, but I think he wanted to move on to other stuff. We still have him as kind of an after credit sequence, dream sequence thing going on this issue. So he's going to do a few pages, and it'll connect to the first arc and stuff. So it'll all make sense. I always had this planned, even if it was going to be a different artist. So that's cool. But anyway, so we got Nick in here. He's doing all this. So he's he communicates a little more with me than Danielle did. So I wasn't, and he was a new guy. So it's now you're on this shit. You're going to do, I'm not afraid of showing him hard pages to do. Cause I'm like, hey man, you're the new guy. You gotta earn your dues and stuff like that. Pay your dues. So anyway, he killed this page though. And he's just been fun to work with.
All right, cool. Listen, man, I mean, you know how I feel about it. I love the stuff.
Yeah, dude, you're always supporting us. I appreciate it. You always have me on here every campaign. Even when I can't make it, you ask me. I appreciate it, dude.
Yeah, man. I mean, listen, it's great stuff. It's a lot of fun. And that's the one thing I like about it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. I try to, because that's the thing. It's obviously it's a little violent, stuff like that. But for the most part, I just want it to be a good time. You know what I mean? It's almost almost action comedy. You know what I mean? Sopranos is funny in a different way. I mean, there's maybe some funny dialogue in this, but it's more the circumstances, almost like a Fargo thing where something happens and you're just okay, that's pretty crazy, shit like that. Things you maybe never thought about in a crime setting because of the magic and stuff like that. So I try to bring that out a little bit, bring in characters, like the Minotaurs and stuff like that. We're going to have a gargoyle in issue 8 if we get to issue 8, you know what I mean? So I'm excited about that and how they interact with the world, because you basically get to make up what they can and can't do when you're making the world yourself. So it's fun.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's just like, one of those things. We have a, free sticker. It's this guy I met at a convention, Amazing Comic-Con. He came up, he's like, hey, I want to do some art for you or whatever. I'm like, hey man, I didn't know if he was any good or not. And then he hit me up with an Instagram DM, and it's at the top of this thing. And it's basically like his take on Scarface. It was a dope piece of art. So I'm like, I'll give it away for anyone that backs anything for free. You get a, free sticker. It's up a little higher, right there. So that one right here, his name's David Schwartz. So he hit that up, one night he just sent it to me. I was like, that's cool, man. So we'll make that the sticker. And then I'm also planning, since we probably won't hit any stretch goals, because I put my, goal as high as possible usually. We're going to have like a funding reward kind of goal thing. I'm excited about that. I'm not going to tell anybody what it is yet, but Nick's designing that right now, so I'm pretty excited.
All right, cool. And listen, when it comes down to violence and stuff, I'm from New York, so that is kind of fun for us.
Yeah, exactly, man. And it's like, I just, I'm from Jersey anyway, but I came back, for opening day Yankee game, and I came back again just to, hang out and stuff, man. And it's nothing like riding the trains back home and stuff like that. Especially because, like, when you're in Jersey, all the old people are like, oh, you're going to die going to Brooklyn. And it's like, Brooklyn's the most, like, at least the parts of Brooklyn I'm in. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You're afraid of this fucking place? So it's like, it's so funny. Queen, like, obviously the Bronx, there's certain parts of the night you don't want to be fucking around. But even then, it's like, I'm a grown man, bro. Like, it's okay. But yeah, I love New York, man. There's nothing like it, especially like public transportation wise. It's like, I mean, I'm sure there are in other countries, but here it's my favorite thing.
Yeah. All right, cool, man. So how many? Hold on, let me get up to the top here. So you got 159 backers, 14 days left.
Yes, sir. I think we lost a backer since we started. Whack. But anyway, that's how it goes in this game, bro. It's hard. It's ups and downs. But anyway, we got 14 days. It ends on December. I must have said something that hurt someone's feelings to somebody or something. But anyway, that's why you don't do podcasts. You lose backers. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, so we got 14 days. December 1st, it ends. This is our 14th campaign. We usually cut it down to the wire, but we make it somehow. Right now, our backer numbers are kind of low for a Magic Powder campaign. Usually we were in the 340s, 350s. Last one, I think, was actually 299. So we'll see what happens. But as long as we have funding, I guess it doesn't really matter. If we don't hit funding, then we'll see what happens. But I don't want to think like that right now.
Don't worry about it. You'll make it. It's like you always, you'll make it. You'll make it.
Yeah, I have faith. I'm gonna send out a nice big email tomorrow to the email list and hopefully get them in. And we got to break 200 backers, and then it just kind of takes over on its own. But I'll tell you what, Kickstarter does not push your shit like they used to, especially if you're not funded yet. It's like if you are funded now, that's what they show you. Oh, this thing's 1,000% funded. It's like, bro, I thought we're supposed to kickstart things, not like over Kickstarter or whatever. But anyway.
Well, you know how it is, man. I mean,
that's why a lot of people like too. Yeah, but it's like it makes you fall into a trap where it's like you ask for less funding than you need, and then say that doesn't actually put you in the algorithm, then you're really fucked. So like, yeah, that's the one thing I'm trying not to do. But see how it goes, man. It changes so much every single campaign. You think you have the trick the next campaign, like, oh, I know it'll be this campaign, and then not even that, like, it works, but then the other thing, like, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm. All right, Mr. Haas. Traversing the Stars. What is that? Jeffrey, you might be muted.
Yeah, I think he's
there. We are. All right, I'm back with my voice. So Traversing the Stars is a interview-based podcast where I interview stars of comics. Get it, the pun. Stars of comics, film, television. We've interviewed, almost everybody from, as you see, Lee Arenberg from Pirates of the Caribbean. We interviewed just recently Karen Gillan from Die Loaded, Jay Jaffe from the Hall of Fame created War for Baseball, Tom Healy, he basically like the head editor for Spawn, like everybody. We interview everybody. These are interview-based shows. They usually are about 30 minutes long. We're at about 1,240 subscribers. Upcoming in the next couple of months, we have someone from Star Trek 3, Savick, Robin Curtis will be joining us. On my show, we got the voice of Grimlock from the '86 cartoon Transformers. We have a writer from behind Transformers. We have the voice actor behind Storm Shadow from the original G.I. Joe. We have Stephanie Williams is coming back. We have John Lehman coming back. We got a lot of people coming back. Rob Williams is coming back to talk the new Hellboy comic book that he's working on. Jeremy Whitley to talk about Strange Tales. Tim Seeley is coming back to talk about his He-Man book. The Sword of Flaw, something along those lines. Philip Kennedy Johnson to talk Infernal Hawk comes out tomorrow. It's just got uploaded. So yeah, it's I'm busy. I usually do about 2 or 3 episodes a week, and I launch about 2 or 3 as well a week. If you like the show, subscribe, because I obviously feed off your like of my stuff. As all egoists do. So please subscribe and like. But this is, it's like I said, I've been doing it. I just started my 5th season 2 weeks ago. So I'm in season 5 of my show. I probably have now released 600-700 interviews in that time period. And yeah, it's going strong. We're having the biggest view month. I'm having the biggest view month of the show ever this month. I should beat my previous record by 9,000 views. It looks like, if I can stay on track. So I'm very excited, and like I said, the guests coming on are exciting. I just got a text from someone else that could be very, very interesting if that interview happens. So yeah, it's what I've been doing. And then next year I'm releasing Malik #3 and Terminus #3, which are 2 comic books that I'm working on. So hopefully 2026 is my year. That's the goal.
All right, cool. Jeff, I got a question for you. What is the strangest thing that any of these creators have told you?
Oh, I'm not gonna say which one it was.
No, you have to say which person, but
right. So there's an actor,
is it on the show? The thing they said?
No, I had to edit it out. There was a actor on a show from one of the Star Trek episodes, and I asked him a question about his character and why the character was the way it was. The response was basically, the Jewish writers hate me. And I was like, wow. I didn't put that in the show. Obviously, they got cut for obvious reasons. Right. But yeah, that was the thing. And I let the guy know. I go, because he sent me an email saying, I hope I wasn't too offensive. I go, well, no, I'm Jewish. I'm going to let it go. It's fine. And then he never talked to me again when he found out I was Jewish. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
Wow, man. Wow.
Yeah, that is a little, yeah.
I was like, well, like I pointed out that I was Jewish, and we're going to let it go. But I think that offended him, so we never spoke again after that. But yeah, it's I try to stay away from controversy. I try to, when someone says something off color, I will edit it out just to protect my guest. Lance Hendrickson, you just missed him. Now, he did say something else was kind of interesting. That's the guy from Aliens and Terminator and a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember exactly what the words he said, but he said something along the lines of, and that is on the show. He said, "Those fucking cops." And I was like, I just left that in there. I was like, fuck it. The editor on the show said, I did ask. I said, is there anything you want me to cut from the show? And they said, I can't think of anything, so it's in. He does say, I can't remember exactly what brought it up, but he goes, "And those fucking cops." Like then I was like, okay, well, it's in. So you can catch it back.
All right, cool. Very nice. I like it.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, like how many subscribers you have? I would imagine.
I'm at 1243.
1243. All right. Very nice. Very nice.
So my goal is by the end of this year, I'd like to get to 1,600. That tends to keep me pretty close to my goal, which is I want to have a new subscriber every single day. But it's tough. The world of online is changing. The long format show is disappearing. Shorts are kind of where it's at now. I do get a lot of responses and comments like, "Who's going to watch all this shit? This episode's too long." So it's unfortunately the world of YouTube is going to now the 1 minute format. Unfortunately, so I tend to post my shows, the full episode, and then I release the shorts, and the shorts are where a lot of the views are now coming in. A lot of the subscribers coming on the shorts, and that just seems to be the way the world works now. It's we have a 1 minute attention span.
Gotcha.
Bro, that's so sad, but it's like I mean you're right, and but the way you're doing it is the way to do it. Because like, for instance, like I haven't ever been that big in any podcast, but like lately I've been trying to work on my own YouTube channel. I started, and then just watching other podcasts and stuff. But it's like if you do find one you like, you go through all their back content, so it's like that's cool. Maybe like a minute or two will get someone hooked, and they'll just go back through everything. But my one question about your show is like, how do you film it? Do you do it like this, like over like online, or do you have like a studio kind of thing?
I do through Zoom. It's recorded through Zoom. There's for the video, because most people watch video. If you don't do video and it's audio only, views are gone completely.
Yeah,
so
especially.
And then there's a few sources where I released only the audio only content in a few areas, but it's primarily recorded through Zoom. And then
That's cool.
I give about 24 hours for the guests to come back if they want anything cut, in case they give away a spoiler or they sounded like an asshole, which does happen from time to time. They'll ask me to cut it. I recently had a guest, I'm not going to say which one, the editor from Marvel asked me to cut from the show about 5 minutes because they feel that it reflected poorly on their company, so it got cut. Usually that's 24 hours, and then I release, and it is what it is. And I do let them know that I edit, and after about 24 hours, it's in the show, and that's just how it goes. Because I've had one person, a previous guest, going a couple years back. He was an actor in one of the episodes. He was in a film, and during the interview, he said something insulting about one of the leaders in Africa, who for the country he comes from. I guess he's like a local warlord or whatever. And he let me know that he does come home from time to time and cut it just in case his life becomes in danger from having it on. I'm insulting the guy. So that got cut, but that was already released. So I had to go take down the show, take down all the views I got on that show. All the links from that show is gone, so I can't repeat it because people will count that as a duplicate link. And I lost any number of views because of it. But at the same time, I'm not going to let my guests, get murdered.
Yeah, I think you made the right call on that one.
I only think so. I like to think that the views weren't that important to me, but who knows?
Jesus Christ, that's crazy. At least you took care of it. Like the fact that it even went out is scary, But who would you say is like your best, like your favorite episode, like the funniest episode you did or most fun you had making an episode? What would it be?
There's 2 guests. There's actually 3 guests that are welcome back every day as they can. I've had multiple times. David Hewlett from Stargate Atlantis is freaking amazing. Those shows tend to be 2 hours long. We usually end up talking an hour before we remember to record. And then when we shut off, we end up talking for like another hour. The guy's freaking amazing. Jeffrey Thorne, same thing. We've talked for hours about comic books. And then Armin Shimmerman, he's the Quark from Deep Space Nine. I've interviewed him 3 times. He's fascinating because he's also an expert in Shakespeare and apparently a genius writer. I got to read his novels that he wrote before the interview, and he's phenomenal as a writer. And we deep dive into Shakespeare and the history and writing and all this other stuff. And he's absolutely fascinating. So I would say those are my 3 favorite guests I've had so far.
All right,
sounds
cool.
Awesome, bro.
So, I mean, the one thing you're missing is what was it? Plan 9 from outer space. We don't have that, but we got Plan 39. So, so Tom, what are we looking at here?
Well, this is my mercenary work, guys, like we've been talking about throughout the show. I've done mercenary work for a couple of people now for Dynamite and now Dren Publications. This is a friend of mine, Michael Dolce, who a few years ago was doing a Plan 10 from outer space Kickstarter campaign. I've told this story. He's fine with it. It wasn't going well. And so I told him to, hey, you know what? You should rebrand this thing as like the worst Kickstarter ever made to kind of really, key into that stuff. And he was like, that's really smart, but it's a little too late, too late. So we're just going to let it die. And it did. And then I got into Kickstarters and I was doing it for a few years and I kind of was looking at the market. And so I messaged him back and I said, whatever happened with that thing that you've got? Because I think maybe now would be a time to kind of take a run at it again. But I said, but here's what I think you need to do. I think you need to modify your concept and then you'll have something really special rather than just a Plan 10, which I'm sure somebody's already done. So what if we were to assume that the aliens just kept coming back? And if Plan 9 was in 1959, then you'd have Plan 19 in the 60s, Plan 29 in the 70s, on and on and on and on, up to where he was, which would have been Plan 59. So I said, you market this as Plan 59 from outer space. You do this campaign. And if it goes well this time, you now have the doors completely wide open to continue the franchise in whatever direction and mode you want to do it in. So he said, that's amazing. And I said, yeah, go do it. Take it and run. And so he did Plan 59. It was a big success. And he asked me, and then they did Plan 79, which they just finished up. And he was like, well, so do you want to do Plan 39? And I was like, well, that's the 80s. So hell yeah, I want to do this. And I kind of pitched a general idea about the book, which would be, Cold War times. It's very nostalgia driven. It's also very historically driven. So I did a lot of deep diving into 80s UFO sightings in America and Russia, all that kind of stuff. So there's all kinds of stuff in the story that is, draws from Plan 9 from outer space, draws from the 80s, draws from history, and then we kind of wrap that all up in a package to get this story that we have an alien. The first issue is basically our alien comes to Earth to do a little bit of reconnaissance before the plan gets started. She runs into a video game arcade where she sees all these kids playing all these games with buttons and joysticks everywhere. So she assumes that this is some sort of like a training place where, the kids are learning how to, run machines and so on. One kid's playing Missile Command. And as she's watching him play Missile Command, and she's asking him like, okay, what is this? The little UFO comes across the top, and the kid just shoots it. Boom. And she goes, you just destroyed that without even trying to communicate with it. The kid goes, you don't communicate with aliens, you destroy them. And so she's like, oh, fuck. This plan may be hosed because we may not have all the information we need. She goes back to her ship, and the story continues on. So that's sort of what kicks the whole thing off. It's super fun. It's art by Ricardo Silva, Gat Melvin on the colors, and you can see just from that first page there with all the dates on it, we go really deep into scroll down, right there. All the dates. We go really deep into like actual UFO stuff, pop culture stuff. I went deep into like the X-Files, trying to like understand the FBI and how they dealt with like Project Blue Book and, all those kinds of things. So it's a really layered book, but it's a lot of fun. Sorry, there's no kissing in it. Everybody who wants the NSFW stuff, there are no alien kisses in this book.
What about the people who don't want words? They're screwed on this one too, I think.
I was going to mention that there are a lot of words on these pages.
They're good words.
Sorry.
There's even words. Fucking numbers in the backgrounds and stuff. What
I know, right? Jesus Christ. What was I thinking?
Listen,
those are pretty dope panels too. I like those numbered panels, the history panels. Those are cool.
But I have to say, you guys did a Patrick Nagel cover, so you guys are good in my book.
We did what?
Patrick Nagel.
Oh yeah, Nagel. Yeah. That's Keith Garvey. He's been doing those for other people for a while, and I was like, dude, I'm doing an '80s book. I need that. Mm-hmm. And he was like, of course, yes, let's do it. It came out great, yeah. And then if you scroll up, Pedro Perez did the little Han Solo homage for our video game arcade. Mm-hmm. And then Greg Bo Watson did the Hitchhiking to Roswell cover. Mm-hmm. And then Ricardo Silva did the main cover. Yeah.
All right, cool. I got 151 bags. You got 8 days left.
Yeah.
You guys are ready for this, so you're good.
Oh yeah, we're rolling. So this will be a 3-issue series. They've given me the go ahead to make it 4 if I want to. I told them I think I see 3 here, but we'll see how I get to by the time I end 2 and get into 3. We'll see if we can expand it, but 3 for sure. Maybe like an extra size 3rd issue.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool. Very nice. I like it. All right, cool. All right, I'm going to pull up my campaign real fast. And I'm going to Fallen Gods. So this is my trade paperback for Fallen Gods. This is an Oswald Chronicle. This was actually the very first story I ever did with Jade Gonzalez. She's a series artist. We've been on it together for 14 years, I think, at this point.
Wow.
And this was the very first story we ever did together. And it's funny in seeing it because the artwork is a little crude in comparison to what's going on today because she's grown as an artist, but it's 140 pages. It's in full color. It's colored by Liz Buenaventura, who's gone on to color for I think Oni and Zenoscope and a couple other companies. I think she did work for Boom as well. And yeah, so this is just something that I did a while ago. It's a fun story. Oswald travels to different dimensions, fights sorcerers, talks to gods, does all kinds of crazy stuff. A lot of fun to story. So but yeah, got another 14 hours, and then we're done.
Geez.
Yeah. So we're almost finished. We're almost at the end of this. So.
Kind of 14 hours. That's like 9 in the morning, 12, 9, 10, 11 in the morning tomorrow. You guys are watching this shit at weird times. You know that you can end you can set your end date and time so that people don't have to wake up in the morning before they're going to work and try and get your campaign in time.
Yes, I know. And yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, I set mine I think to end at like 1:30 in the afternoon Vegas time. So like yeah, it'll be about 4:30
There you go.
East
That's at
Coast.
least like lunchtime for Vegas, at
Yeah.
least, you know.
yeah.
But like you're saying, maybe you're right. Maybe it should be like set to right after they get off work. You know, but at the same time, I feel like a lot of people will back your shit while they're at work. I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But having them rush in the morning, I think, is sketchy.
I will say this: I think my last campaign, which funded in the last 8 hours, ended around 10 o'clock in the morning, and it popped off. You know, so but it was like our biggest backer was from fucking Germany, though, so I don't know what that says. But yeah, anyway, the whole thing was you never know, I guess. But
No,
yeah,
you
the
never
more,
know.
the
Literally,
more
you never.
time you got, the better it is. Obviously, like yeah.
All right. So listen, guys. So I got a question here for everybody, right? And I'm pretty sure we've all been here, done this one. What's a mistake you made that you won't make again in indie comics?
Okay, I'll jump in. Signed a contract for in perpetuity on a project of mine. That was the dumbest move I've ever fucking made. Never got the money back. Don't own the rights still to the comics. I can't finish it without paying the guy off for it. Biggest mistake. Don't perpetuity should be burned into hell, circle of hell that it deserves to be burned in.
Yep. Okay, that's a good one because I've received contracts that have said things like in perpetuity throughout time and space, and I was just like, I remember just contacting that publisher and saying, please never contact me ever again. Thank you. So yeah, I've been there. Oh, hold on, just answer this. Alexis, yes, you're right. Jeff, what are your thoughts on the question?
I can't think of anything like all encompassing. Like, a lot like Jeff said even earlier, like pitching sucks. I don't fuck around with that. I ain't signing nothing. You know what I mean? Especially without like a lawyer looking at it and stuff like that. But I think a lot of it's like case by case basis. Like there's certain conventions I've done I'm not going to do again. There's certain artists I've worked with or tried to work with I'm not going to work with again. Things like that. Maybe even like, just certain people I've maybe reposted their work and then you find out more about them and that ain't going to happen again either. Just things like that. But for the most part, I don't think there's anything that comes to mind that I've learned, like that, where I'm like, I ain't doing that no more. I'm trying to think. There's got to be something. So yeah, maybe I'll think about it while everyone else answers. But yeah, thank you.
All right, cool. Rod, what are your thoughts?
So whenever that's a unique question, but it did remind me of one thing that I really regretted, which was this was around 2005 to 2010, that kind of period, where remember when companies were looking for all these comics to make into movies and whatever, multimedia, whatever, right? And they were sniffing around comics and anything comics, anything manga. So we were caught up in that. And at the time, the company already had like they were talking to somebody, but nothing was happening. And these other strangers approached me personally and started, making an offer. And at the time, it was like the people that I knew were like, we're friends, right? We're gonna stay with this other company. You're not gonna, but I really should have just rolled the dice, because that was my one regret. I should have rolled the dice and went with the new person, because nothing happened with the old company. And they, for a while, my editors got angry at me and said, why did I do this behind their back, even though there wasn't any deal written, but the other company was eager to, work on the project. And it's just a matter of having a lot of eggs in other baskets kind of thing, where I had too many eggs in one company basket, and I really wish I spread the eggs more, even though the risk might have been the same. But at least it's another option, it's another choice, which is why I'm very publisher promiscuous. I don't really work with an exclusive publisher right now, It's whoever will give me money, really. So I really should have, really looking back, I really should have just said, nah. But, they used the whole pressure about, oh, we're friends, or I had to never do that. I'm like, that was my one big regret. So that was it. That was my story.
Right.
Hopefully somebody will learn from that mistake.
All right. Tom, what are your thoughts?
I don't really have anything. I think it's a lot like Jeff said. It's very situational. There's there are cons I won't do again for various reasons. There are artists and just creators in general that I won't use again for but saying no to them doesn't mean I don't have the door open for everybody else. So everything is very like everybody sort of gets the chance, and you either run with the chance or you fuck it up, and we see where that goes. I think the only thing that would be sort of regretful for me is there were times that I had opportunity to sort of like get FaceTime with people, like after cons, going to parties and dinners and things like that, which I was always like, I don't want to go do that. I just don't want to. I want to go back to the hotel. I've been at the con all day. I want to eat a burger and watch TV and maybe write scripts if I need to work or whatever. Like I'm not that extrovert guy where I'm like, let's go out and do San Diego after hours. I'm just like, no, I'm going back to the hotel. So there's definitely regrets there because there's people that I know that I would have been able to have a little more FaceTime with, artists, and just sort of expand the circle of people knowing who I am. So there is that. But as far as like experiences that like you guys are talking about contracts, like I've had contract talks with people before where they've had those sort of forever and all through time and all technology that's ever been made, whatever. Like they've told me about those contracts to kind of warn me off of that. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a little brutal. So I haven't had that experience to deal with myself yet, but I'm aware that it's out there. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool.
Yeah, I'm still dealing with
like,
follow-up with Well,
the only time.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say the only time I've ever even had interview or anything with a publisher. I'm not even gonna say who it was. I think they're still around, but they hit me up around the time I think we just finished issue 1, maybe it was around issue 2 of Magic Powder, and they were basically like, "Yeah, man, just keep doing it, and then when you guys are done with the first arc, we'll take all of the credit and make it into a graphic novel, and we'll own all the rights to blah, blah, blah." And I was like, this is the worst idea. I'm like, this is what you tell people? I was like, really just telling them straight up, this is a stupid idea. Like, I don't know who you guys, like, are you going to really have another meeting with? And then the guy who got me the meeting was there, and I was like, bro, don't be wasting other people's time like this. But anyway, yeah, that sucked. And then a guy I knew, a good friend of mine, he said when he was like doing comics in like the early 90s, he did a convention where basically like a publisher offered him money and he turned it down. He regrets it to this day, stuff like that. So no one's ever offered me shit, so I have no regrets yet. I'm sure I'll have some later on down the line. I've only been doing this since like 2021, so we'll see what I can do as far as fucking it up.
Give it time; it'll happen.
Yeah, I expect to.
Yeah. For myself, it's second guessing myself, right? So sometimes I make a decision and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And then I end up listening to other people. And that's usually the mistake. And it's like, listen to somebody else. It's like, okay, all right, let me go that route. And then, it doesn't work out. So it's, even if I had done my own way and it didn't work out, at least I did my way. You know what I mean? Yeah. But invariably, whenever, and then when I go back and do it my way, it works. And I'm like, all right, this is what I should have done in the first place anyway. So yeah, it's second guessing myself. So that's definitely
a good point.
I've been there.
Yeah. Because now you mentioned that.
Yeah, not so much second guessing, but like I let other people sort of
sway
an idea, sort of like that should be how you do that, or this is who you should use for this. And I'm like, okay,
right,
sure. And then invariably that would collapse, and I'd be like, that's it. We're done with that. Everything comes from me first and is then delineated downwards. There are no more external, things like that.
So I used to have a website in like 2009, 10-ish, and it was going pretty well. It was like a wrestling website. and it was just me covering everything. So like, it was a lot to do at the time. And I was like, there's people that like readers that were like, oh, I want to write for it or whatever. And so then I let them work on the site, and like they sucked. And it was like more work, like editing their crap and all this stuff. And it like ruined everything. And it was like, and this was whatever, 16 years ago, whatever. And it's like, from then on, I always knew it was like, man, I'm not, because like even people hit me up about Magic Powder. Oh, you should do an anthology. I'll write it. Well, I'm like, nah, I'm good, man. Like, I'll write it. I'll find artists to do the art. I'm good. I don't want to do like I don't know. I don't want to work with other writers really. Like, I'm good with that. I don't know why. I'm just not. I've never been good at co-writing, and like I've learned that, without comics. I mean, don't get me wrong. There was a kid when we were at a high school, so around 2005. We just graduated, stuff like that. He wanted to work on comics, stuff like that, and his ideas just sucked, and we never got anywhere. So it was just like one of those things too. So. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things like, collaborating takes a lot. And then, there are writer teams out there and all kinds of different things, movies, comics, even comedy, whatever. And I mean, if you meet that person that you can actually write with, you better motherfucking keep them around, because that's some special shit, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never accept any ideas from like your family, relatives, or friends. Or
Yes.
So true. Like they don't get, especially like you said, like family and stuff. Like, why don't you do this? And you're like, and then you can't even explain it to them. You're just like, okay, maybe I will do it. And then in your mind, like, that's the worst fucking idea I've ever heard. But
you always have to hit them with it. Say, well, listen, it's going to cost me $5,000. If you give me the $5,000, I'll do it.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, they don't understand how the money of it works and stuff like that. Oh, you made $6,000 on the Kickstarter. I'm like, no, I lost actually like $1,200, but whatever. It looked cool.
It looked good. Mm-hmm. Tom, you got another one?
No.
All right, so here I got one. Here it is, gentlemen. Knowing what you know now, what would you do differently in indie comics? Right? Knowing what you know now, what would you do differently?
Right. You sound like a teacher, like asking the questions on a test, and you're like, where to emphasize the words. My problem mainly is like I didn't have the ideas for the comic I wanted to make until I had it. You know what I mean? So there was no getting in earlier for me. But I feel like just like the whole entire, like if I knew Twitter was going to suck when it did and all these things, like if I, even like knew MySpace was going to fall off when it did, or Facebook would go to the old people when it did and stuff like that, like, I would have obviously built my following a little better and stuff like that. But overall, just going with the flow, you kind of, there's nothing you can do, I don't think.
Yeah, but old people are the one with money.
Yeah, true. But then they're also the ones who hate new ideas. So it's a tricky thing.
Yes, it's true.
Some of us.
That's why you got to follow trends, Jeff. You got to follow trends.
That's why you got to follow trends. Yeah, from the 80s. That's why you bring up the homage covers of things they understand. They're
you got to be doing BJ and the Bear homages and stuff. Like, you got to really
straight up. Where's my Smokey and the Bandit, baby? But yeah, like you can't go wrong like that. That's the thing too with Magic Powder. I do try to appeal a little bit to everybody. Like, oh, you like The Godfather? Oh, you like Sopranos? Like every generation of crime fan will be into it in my mind. So like, oh, you don't read comics yet? You know what I mean? But yeah, that's the thing. Is old people on Facebook suck.
Well, I think for me, I think I would have started earlier. I kind of feel like this, when people had money, let's say maybe 15 years ago, was a time to really have gotten started. Right. I really didn't get the ball rolling on this until maybe maybe 7 or 8 years ago, like right around. Actually, my first Kickstarter was after COVID. And people didn't have money at that. But with COVID, when the money was being dropped, people were getting those stimulus checks and things like that. It was a hell of a time to get started. I kind of feel like, same with my podcast, I feel like it started too late. If I know what I know now, I would have started years and years. I mean, I'm 45 years old. I could have started 20 years ago and been an adult supporting this stuff. So I would have started a long time ago, I think, instead of waiting till things got crazy on social media and people got broke and all that other stuff.
No, that's so true. Like, I really wish I had the ideas, because it's like I think ideas that could have worked and stuff like that, but nothing like to me, Magic Powder could only be a comic book, and it's like when that hit, and it was also a time, like you said, obviously COVID and everything like that, but I had also been writing so long and like having friends that want to support me, but also don't fucking read. So I was like, obviously like Tom has run into things like this, but where it's like, basically they just want to look at the pictures. So I'm like, okay, it's got to be a comic. I got to come up with a comic idea that, But like you said, if only I came up with that idea when I wasn't 40, and I'd probably and when people have money, because obviously 2008 happened, all that kind of shit, but they bounced back, and that would have been the time to get on it. And then, like you said, with the podcasting and everything like that, I'm watching a podcast now that started around COVID times, and these guys are up to like 15,000, Patreon subscribers and all this stuff, and it's like, is that possible now? Is it possible? I don't know.
Well,
But,
I mean, I'll say before I was on my podcast, I was doing interviews and getting interviews in the publicist work for a previous podcast that came out right at COVID. And we shot up to, I think by the time I left, we had 139,000 viewers a month. And that was the time to do it because people were home.
So what do you get now? Compare that to now.
30.
Okay, but still, that's okay. That's huge.
Yeah, that's the number I'm looking at right now. I'm counting shorts and everything else. But yeah, so that because that's COVID, people were home, people had the free time. The guests had nothing better to do because films weren't being made, so they were willing to talk with you. I mean, that was the time to do it. When I finally decided to go my own way was just over 4 years ago, and like I said, I wish I had known what I'd known 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and had started earlier on my own show. I would have been bigger by now.
100%. Especially like the guests you get are crazy. So like, yeah, you're not wrong.
All right, cool. Rod, what are your thoughts?
One of my thoughts, sometimes it could be a trap sometimes to think about that because, it's almost like asking myself, should I really marry my ex who was fabulously wealthy? I mean, this could have solved all my problems, but at the same time, I probably won't be working into comics because I'd be set up for life, really. I'd have no motivation whatsoever, would I? And then my life would be totally different. So maybe if there are some regrets, like I was saying a while ago, maybe just to be a little bit more courageous and take more risks, I guess. Especially with those key decisions that you wish you had more clarity on, like JD was saying about, you follow somebody's advice and then it turned out to be the wrong one. Those kinds of things. But I know that maybe that can't be taught when you're young and you're still eager to, get into comics. I mean, I got into comics in 2000, and I used to attend San Diego a lot, 1996 onward. So I was kind of like Tom. I would be so tired, I would just go home and I would just go back to the hotel because I'd be exhausted. I don't know how some people do it. But yeah, that's but those are things that maybe you regret, but sometimes you think about it and maybe they turned out the way they did, I don't know. But yeah, maybe just be more courageous and just be more try more risks, I guess. Even though I've tried a lot of risky things, including living in a car for comics. So yes, but yeah, it's one of those things. Like I said, maybe I should have signed with that other company. I don't know. Yeah, it might have been the same, but at least you tried. That's the thing. Try more stuff, I guess.
It's a good point too, though, about like, if say me or the other Jeff got into stuff earlier, say maybe our first comic sucked or, it wasn't what we, because I feel like my first comic was good enough that people liked it. I didn't have to hear a bunch of shit about it. But what if it wasn't good and like people didn't like it? Maybe I wasn't ready yet. So like maybe like you said, Rod, like why look at it like that? Like it worked out how it worked out because it was supposed to work out or whatever.
Sure,
so yeah, obviously. But when someone asks you a question like this, that you start getting hypothetical, you're like, trouble.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff, hold on. Jeff Haas, I know you gotta go. So please let everybody know where they can find you and your work.
All right, so primarily find me at Traversing the Stars podcast on YouTube. Like I said, new episodes usually post about 3 times a week. I'm on Facebook, on Instagram, on Blue Sky. I'm basically everywhere. So look for me, Jeff Haas. You can look for me under Terminus. You can look for me under Malik, Reigning Devil, and Traversing the Stars podcast. So yeah, come find me, and I will then try to find you back. Thank you so much.
All right, cool, Jeff. Thank you, man.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Talk to you soon, brother.
Take care, Jeff.
Yeah. All right.
Number 4.
We're down to 4. Tom, do you have any regrets? you have anything that you wouldn't do?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of comes back to what we just talked about. There's people that I wouldn't have worked with. Like I knew it wasn't going to work, so I wouldn't have done it. But really, all that's kind of small stuff. The only real blip that I've had in my career, and I've talked about this before, is when we moved over to Aspen. We did our first 4 years by ourselves, when we kind of felt like we'd hit that glass ceiling, and what do we do now? We can keep going. Kickstarter had become a thing. We were like, well, maybe we could kind of use that to help us out a little bit. But then, we knew the guys over at Aspen, Vince and Frank and Pete, and we were like, does this make sense to sort of like partner up and put our stuff under the Aspen banner and whatever? And they were like, yeah, I think this might work, and so on. And all of it was good. But again, like the question was, knowing what you know now, and knowing what I know now is that only lasted 3 years, because at that third year, Aspen sold part of their studio to a Hollywood company to start focusing on Michael Turner projects and stuff in Hollywood. And so at that point, all of the comic book business kind of stopped, and there wasn't a place for us to publish through them. So while the experience was fantastic and I learned a lot, I kind of had that 4 years and then like this weird blip of 3 years where a lot of people thought we were gone because Big Dog didn't exist in Diamond anymore, even though we were just under Aspen. People were just like, well, I guess Big Dog Inc. is gone and whatever. For 3 years, and we dropped back out of Aspen. Instead of going back into the market, we started with Kickstarters. So we reimagined the entire infrastructure for what we were doing, and Kickstarter worked. So we just kind of stuck with that. And so that whole process of that, like 3 years with Aspen and that first year with Kickstarter, the comic book world assumed we were gone. Because we're not in stores anymore. And so that's the only sort of like looking back, if I had known we couldn't really take that ride for longer period, like if I knew it was only 3 years, like you got 3 years to make this work, I'd have been like, I think we can probably make it work a different way on our own, just to maintain ourselves, our own identity. So that's the only thing that kind of jumps up at me. But again, like at the same time, we lost a bunch of fans because they thought we were dead, but we gained a lot of Aspen people that were like, oh, like, who are you? I don't even know who you are. They didn't know us from 4 years of Big Dog Inc. So the fact that we were attached to that brand for 3 years was really good for us in that regard. So it's sort of just a balancing scale, like what was good, what was bad. Did it balance, or was there a clear like problem? And there really wasn't, but that is always going to be that question is what if we had just maintained our individuality and either just kept doing it the way we were doing it or jumped into crowdfunding at that point? What would have the possibilities been? I don't know, but that's, and that, so it's not to say that I wouldn't do it again. We've gotten in bed with Antarctic Press. They're reprinting some of our stuff, but it's not like we moved everything over and we're like, we're Antarctic Press now. Like that's not what's happening this time. It's a little bit of a modification. Now it's just like, hey, Ben, take that book and you guys go do something with it while we're still Big Dog Inc. over here. And they're like, awesome, cool, let's do that. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool.
That's pretty neat, fellow AP artist.
There you go. I think for myself, it's probably not trying to find a publisher for my work like years ago. I think because, and again, like I've had publishers make offers. I literally had a guy who was a publisher. I have one of his books on my shelf right over there, and I keep it there to remind me of the son of a bitch. He walked up to me at a show, and he looked at we were doing Tall Tales at the time, and he walks up, he says, "Yo, man, that looks really, really nice. I would love to publish that for you guys. I'll just take 50%." And he was like 50% of all of the rights, of the entire property. And I was like, let me take that. Let me think about that for a while. And and then he sent me an email, and I was just like, dude, just wasn't giving up. And I was just like, nah, I'm good. Thanks. There's another one. And that was another deal from the other one. So it's just like crazy. But yeah, but maybe trying to find a good publishing partner, which is always hard. It's always difficult, finding that in the marketplace. Other than that, I'm pretty damn, like, it takes me a long time to pick up an artist, right? It takes me a long time. And sometimes I feel like just recently I skipped a step, and that's where I fucked up. And I was like, I should never skip that step, So, and the step usually
You're still learning even now, like
even now, man, even now. Because listen, I'm like, the person I got, I'm like, I've seen their work before. They're a pro. They were delivering on time. But the stuff was just boring. It's just uninspired and boring. And I was just like,
that sucks.
Exactly. And I'm like,
that's the worst part. Is like, you like the guy, but you got to fire him at any job. That's the worst.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I like you. And the thing is, he got the characters spot on. Like, he got them on right on point with the way they're supposed to look. Right on point. But I was just like, his panel layouts, the angles, the storytelling, just none of it was there. None of it was there. And I was just like, can't do it.
So when you're putting your script together, you don't choose the panel layouts and stuff usually?
No.
Interesting.
I don't. Okay. I use a hybrid form of a script versus Marvel. So what I do is I give all the dialogue. I give instructions for facial features, but I don't do panel 1, page 1, panel 2, block grid. I'll do it once in a blue moon when I want to do something very specific.
Yeah, when you know what it is, kind of thing.
Right. Like, if I want a double page spread, but I want like 4 panels laid out across the bottom, where that's where I want the story to run on the bottom, and I want a big thing on the top. I'll do a 9-page grid once in a blue moon just to do something very specific, right?
A little Watchmen in there. I like
right.
it.
I'll do very specific things, but it's blue moon for me because I rather let the artist breathe, right? I let them set the pacing. I let them do that stuff. I don't even set I don't even tell them like fit in 24 pages. It's fit in 28 pages, which can sometimes blow up in your face when you're dealing with an artist who does decompressed storytelling.
He just gives you like 60 splash pages.
Right.
Yeah, don't tell that to me.
Yeah. I was like,
that's dangerous.
Right. You'll get 50 back.
Right. And it's just like, it's just like really decompressed. And I was just like, and I had to talk to the guy. I was like, listen, because I love his artwork. And he's the exact opposite. He gives me great angles, great everything. He does all the stuff. But I was like, look, we got a lot of, I have a lot of talking head scenes, right? I says, the people talking, we have to get the message across, but you got to crush those pages together. But we're going to have a lot of action. That's where you could do the big stuff and, do that there, but this, and he got it. So it took a little bit, but we got there. Because usually when I hire someone, I usually hire them to do a pinup, maybe a cover. Then I hire them to do a short story, 4 or 5 pages. And then I'll hire them to do maybe like a one shot. I went from pinup to one shot, and that's where I should have done the short. If I would have done the 4 or 5 page short, I would have realized very quickly that this wouldn't work. So
yeah, I had an artist like that on a Public Defender where it's like he kept hitting me up like, hey, you need artists, whatever. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna give this guy a page no matter what. And it's like, it's fine, whatever. But yeah, I wouldn't want to give, because I got to pay for these fucking things. Like, it better be up to what I'm paying for. And it's like, you don't want to be mean to people like, oh, I don't think it's good enough or something like that. But I guess you just say it's not what I'm looking for, whatever. Say however you want it. But you just feel bad like turning people down. And then even after you work with them, then they're thinking like, oh, you're gonna hire me for more stuff. And it's like, bro, I did that. Like now you can show other people maybe and get other. I don't know. But that's the one thing with artists. They're humans too.
Yeah. Listen, man. For me, with Oswald, there's always a thing about he's the toughest one. So if you get him, the rest of it should flow. But if you can't hit him, I'm like, we're just not gonna be able to do it. But anyway,
to be honest, I've been crazy the way I hire artists. Honestly, like I don't give them enough of a tryout really, because even this new guy that's doing Magic Powder, Nick, he was recommended to me by this guy Ignacio, who, did my like couple covers, worked on Public Defender, stuff like that. But he's like, this guy's dope, whatever. And I was like, all right, I'll let him do a sample page, and he killed it. Actually, the sample page, he followed my storyboards too much. And I was like, this sucks, bro. And he was just kind of like, oh, well, let me do it my way, blah, blah, blah. And, he changed just the angle of one of the panels. And I'm like, because that's the thing. I learned, I was watching the movie American Splendor, whatever, 2002 or whatever the fuck. And Harvey Picar in the movies just like drawing his boxes and everything. And so that's kind of like where I started. I was like, I'll do my script. Because I write screenplays and stuff. But usually I'll do, with my comics, I'll do storyboard first. Then I'll script it. And like, edit anything while I'm doing that, and then give it to the artist. And then if they feel like, oh, this will look cooler this way or whatever, that's cool too. Like, you know what I mean? It's just more so, I don't know. I don't know if it makes it quicker or not. Maybe it makes it harder. I'm not really sure. But to me, it's like, I guess it makes me feel like I'm more a part of the process too, where it's like, I know how it's going to look in my mind. So I can also script the next issue and things like that. I don't know. But yeah. So anyway, this guy, Nick, he did the one page, whatever. I was like, all right, let's go. And that was it. And now we're doing it. You know what I mean? Same thing with Danielle. I met him. He did maybe one page. I was like, all right, let's go. Like, I don't know. It's just kind of, I don't want to wait. I don't know. So like, yeah, I've been lucky, but usually you could tell. I don't know. Maybe because I'm looking at it's, because like a pinup, like you said, would be harder to tell than an actual page. But one page, you can usually tell how fast they work, what they color, if they understand your scripting, stuff like that.
All right, gentlemen, we made it to hour 2. Thank you so much. You guys are all awesome. Let's start with Rod. Rod, where can we find you and your work, sir?
Most of my work can be found at drivethroughcomics.com, as you featured there. I'm also on Patreon, Rod Espinosa. And if you like the NSFW, I have another Patreon, and it's called You Know Who Makes Hot Art Without Any Spaces. So, and then thank you, JD, and shout out to Daphne Lage for all the wonderful commentary.
Yeah. All right, cool. Jeff, where can we find you and your work, sir?
Right now, hit me up on Kickstarter. Just type in Magic Powder, you'll find us. Magic Powder issue 7. We're trying to fund this mother. Outside of that, I just started a YouTube channel called Jeff Makes Comics. I think it's just at Jeff Makes Comics. So youtube.com/whatever Jeff Makes Comics. And hell yeah, thanks, Rod. And then getmagicpowder.com is my usual website in case you missed the Kickstarter, you want to grab the stuff off of there. But yeah, so yeah, Jeff Makes Comics, that's my new thing. Right now it's just me talking. We're gonna do an actual a show where it's like me, my other friend Jeff, who does the Elf with No Name art, and who's gonna do my other horror comic that I got the grant for. So he's gonna be doing the art while we talk, and then my buddy Mike's gonna be like the co-host kind of guy, and we'll just be talking while he makes it. So Jeff Makes Comic, like Jeff will literally be making a comic while we talk and shit. And then I'm also gonna do Jeff Makes Friends, which will just be me talking to like other people, hopefully other comic artists, stuff like that. And then like instead of talking about just what we make, though, it'll be like like what are you into, like what TV shows you like, what video games you like, shit like that, to see if like we could actually hang out in real life. Like that's the idea. Like at the end, like, are you my friend, or like we can't kick it, man. I don't know, your shit's musicals, you know what I mean? Come on. But anyway, so yeah, we'll see how it goes. I want to try out some new shows. I know it's late for the podcasting game, but bro, there's nowhere else to advertise this shit anymore. So
Choo-choo. Tom?
I'll be your first guest so that we can just immediately know that we are not going to be friends. Because there's a hashtag that goes around. It's hashtag Tom hates everything. And
that's kind of like me, though. That's why it works.
Okay, well then maybe it's all right then. Maybe it's fine.
Yeah, I thought you were just about to say you love musicals, so you went a whole different way. I think we're good friends, honestly. So yeah, no, that's good. Tom's in. I like it.
BigDogInk.com, guys. You can get all of our back issues or trade paperbacks or whatever you need. Plan 39 from Outer Space runs until, let's say, this says that we have 8 days left. So next Tuesday, I think next Tuesday it's going to wrap up.
Next update I do, I'll throw you guys in on mine.
Beautiful, we appreciate it.
Promo.
So next Tuesday you got a little over a week to get it done. For us, for Big Dog Inc., that's it. We'll be live again starting in January with Legend of Oz Volume 7, celebrating the 15-year anniversary of the book next year, along with, hopefully, fingers crossed, we had to push it back this year, but our shark book, it's only an island if you look at it from the water, will launch in June, July. So we're getting active back on that again too. So yeah, that'll be fun.
All right, cool. So find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those different places. Right now on Kickstarter with the Oswald Chronicles, and we'll be back next Sunday, and hopefully Mr. Rosario will be making his return. So he'll be back with us.
Tell him I said what up.
I will let him know. And then, well, you know what? He should watch the show, so the son of a bitch can, he can watch it for himself. So, but yeah. But everyone, please check out the show notes. In the show notes are links to all of these various campaigns or websites to all these various creators. Click on those links, buy those books. All of these creators are all making fantastic books, all doing great work. And go check them out because they all deserve your support. So go do it, whenever you can and as many times as you can. So thank you so much. And don't forget, read more indie comics, especially ours. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, JD.
Thank you,
Good
Rod.
luck with all your Kickstarters.